Hello. Happy Sunday, fam. Welcome to Mindset Soul Set with Jamil, Sunday edition. Happy to have you guys all here with me today. You've had a good week so far. Let me know in the chat. Been working hard, doing the things. Whew. I just had a great workout, nice little soak. Got my day started right with some yoga, a walk in nature. Yes, yes. What's up, Bobby? What a fun conversation we're going to have today. For some of you, I've had this conversation with you before. Some of you have never heard it. So this is going to be a wild one. But before we get started, we're going to do what we always do before these Sunday calls happen, and that is start this off with a prayer. And the reason for that is I truly believe that anything and everything we want or need in our life will find its way to us through Source when we ask and take steps towards it. If this makes you offended, just mute me for 30 seconds because I'll do it anyways. But if you'd like to join me, here we go. God, we love you so much, Lord. Thank you for today. Thank you for opening all our eyes and giving us breath, for giving us the minds to connect and communicate with each other. God, we're so grateful for that. Lord, we ask that you guide each of us to your purpose for our lives, so that the steps we take are your steps, the words we speak, your words, the actions we take, your actions. God, we ask that you guide us to those individuals that will be of benefit to us, either through a financial gain or a lesson we need to learn. And we also ask that you deflect us from those individuals that would waste our time or bring us harm. Lord, for any of us here that are in need of any additional understanding of the concepts that we teach here, we just pray for perfect clarity in our minds. And for anyone suffering through any physical, mental, emotional, or spiritual pain, we just pray for perfect healing in our lives. And Lord, it is with humble hearts, and in your heavenly name we pray. Amen. Cool. Awesome. So these Sunday theory portions, these are things that I used to do just strictly with the AstroFlipping community. That's my wholesale real estate crew. But I know that what we are doing here is so helpful to so many. And of course, mindset and the way that we're thinking, the way that we operate in the world has everything to do with what kind of success we have. And so today I want to ask you a question. If you have ever said this phrase, I want you to let me know in the chat. Everything was going so good, and then I don't know what happened. If you have ever said that, everything was going so good, and then I don't know what happened. If that is something that you have experienced in your life, then hit 1 in the chat. Everything was going so good, and then I don't know what happened. Yes. All right. Well, my friend, when we experience that, that is self-sabotage. Yes, self-sabotage. And all of us do it, myself included. I have sabotaged myself in my life. Not once, but many times. It's a reality of the human condition. And we're actually hardwired to sabotage ourselves when things exceed our expectations. So right now, I want you to, if you have a pen and a piece of paper handy, I want you to write down these four qualities, okay, or these four aspects of your life. So in one of them, just do a $, your money, your financial aspects. And I want you to I'm going to give you these 4 aspects, and then we're going to score ourselves out of 10. Okay. So money, relationships, love, health, and our spiritual life. Okay. So our financial life, our love life, our health, and our spiritual life. And I want you to give yourself a score out of 10. So in your financial life, if you are a 5, a 7, a 8, a 9, a 10 out of 10, whatever that is, just give yourself a score. In your love life, if you are a 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever that is, 10 out of 10, just give yourself a score. In your health, again, give yourself a score out of 10. And in your spiritual world, a score out of 10. That's money, love, health, and spirit. All right, so you see these scores that you have out of 10, and I want you to look at that picture and understand that whatever that is, whatever that framework is that you and I hope that you were completely honest with yourself, but that is what your current identity is in those aspects of your life. All right, so your identity right now, what you identify yourself as in terms of the way that you are financially, the way that you are in your love relationships, the way that you are in your health, and the way that you are spiritually. This is the identity that you currently hold in these aspects. Now, the effed up thing is that anytime that you exceed that number, right? So if financially right now you are at a 7 out of 10 or a 6 out of 10 or a 5 out of 10, anytime you exceed whatever that number is, so let's just say it's a 5, if you start going towards 7, okay, so if you start moving towards 7 out of 10, then immediately the mechanisms in the brain that will cause you to sabotage yourself will actually fire up, and it will create some form of thought that will release that will create an emotion, which will then trigger an action, which will cause you to then lower that number. So if you are creeping towards a 7 out of 10 in your financial life, you're immediately beyond homeostasis. You're beyond the comfort of your identity. And that is what triggers the biological response to leave or to screw that situation up. And science and research have shown us that self-sabotage actually is triggered from a positive event. All right. So many of us don't see that, don't realize it, but we tend to sabotage ourselves right after something really good has happened. That's why when we started off today, we said the statement, everything was going so good. And then I don't know what happened. Right? So now that you understand that your identity is essentially that score, those scores out of 10, you can understand that whatever you do to get you above those numbers is going to trigger a sabotaging response. Now, the beautiful thing about it is that once you understand that, once you know that this is what's going to happen, you can actually stop that mechanism. You can stop it from happening. And this is what ends up happening to so many people, especially in entrepreneurship. You know, I see this especially in my line of work because I'm in the coaching space, as well as I'm, running a large wholesale operation. So I get to see the staff that I work with, and many of these folks do really well for a certain amount of time, and then all this craziness starts to happen, and they just get back to their baseline, and they can't explain for themselves why these sorts of things are happening, right? And so when you are looking at aspects of your life, right? And you start to, let's just say, for instance, you're saying to yourself, I'm financially not where I want to be in my life. So I'm going to do something. I'm going to try my hand at wholesale real estate. I'm going to try my hand at creative finance. I'm going to try my hand at something here. I'm going to go and I'm going to put forth a ton of effort, and I'm going to try to make a change. Right now, the reason why a lot of times this doesn't work is because we're actually trying to affect that change from the outside. It's an external factor. And we see this happen a lot of times, especially when we are first getting started. So if you have ever had an experience where you, let's just say, you made a decision that you're going to really take this wholesale real estate thing seriously, and you're going to now, ooh, that light. You're going to take this wholesale real estate thing super serious, and you're actually going to spend the entire weekend making calls. Okay. So you're making calls all weekend long. You do really well. Let's just say each of the days you have 50 conversations. You start, creating relationships. Those conversations start going really well, and you're feeling so pumped up about it. You're like, man, I did it. I got it. I'm in this cadence. It wasn't so bad. I might even have a potential deal coming to me next week. And then all of a sudden, the week comes and you find every reason to unravel all of that work, right? Oh, something happened with me, in my house. I got into a big fight with my spouse, or something happened with me in my health. I ended up getting sick, or something happened with me in my soul. I just started feeling super depressed, and I started getting really sad. And I just couldn't do anything for the rest of the week. I got really depressed, right? And it takes you back to that baseline. Now, how many times have I seen somebody get started in wholesale real estate, and they'll do that work for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days a week, and then they just drop off? And that's the best case scenario, right? That's the best case scenario, is you don't even get far. How many people have I seen come into the business and smash it for like 2-3 months? They kill it. And they get to a point where they make a bunch of money, right? They make $40,000, $50,000, $60,000. They have 60 grand in the bank. And then all of a sudden, they unravel the whole thing. They unravel all of it, right? They blow through the money. They stop doing their outreach. They stop following up, and they get back even below where they started, right? And so then those negative thoughts and those negative emotions, they start to beat themselves up, and they say, you know what? This is exactly why I'm not meant for this, right? This just doesn't work for me. I win. I do really well, and then away I go. I unravel the whole thing. And every time that we do that to ourselves, we reinforce the identity, all right? Because the identity is what's causing all of this. We reinforce the identity that we are not anything more than the scores that we gave ourselves as in the space of money, relationships, health, and our spirit. Anytime that we go over, or anytime that we start to seek and go beyond that, somewhere else we're going to find a way to bring ourselves back down to that baseline number. And that is the saddest thing, because it puts us in this feedback loop where we just can't seem to get ahead, right? So what does that tell us? That tells us where the actual work needs to happen, right? The actual work doesn't have to happen on the external things. It doesn't mean, oh my goodness, I have to get out there and make more calls, or I've got to get out there and I've got to comp more properties, or I've got to get out there and I got to, do more networking events. No, that's not what it means. What it means is I have to actually take a look at my identity. I've got to take a look at where I am in the scoring of myself. And I've got to understand why it is that I have this misperception of myself. And at the end of the day, the fundamental misperception that we have about ourselves when we self-sabotage is a lack of worthiness. Right? So I want you to write that down. The reason why you are at whatever score you are at a 10 in finances, love, health, and spirit, the reason why you are at that ceiling right now is because you feel or believe that you are not worthy for more. And that is actually a lie. It's a lie. But it's a lie you tell yourself so much that it has become your identity. That identity is creating that belief structure. Those beliefs then translate into thoughts. Those thoughts then become the way that we feel, and those feelings then trigger action. And we're in the feedback loop. How many of you listening to this right now can identify and see these aspects in yourself? So I'm going to tell you guys a story. I had an opportunity a little while ago, more than a little while ago, a couple of years ago, a huge opportunity for me. And I was starting to really feel like I was hitting my stride, like I was getting to where I needed to go. I was on my, my rocket ship to, my next level. And right before my situation was, before I was supposed to walk into that situation, I found a way to sabotage myself in it. I go and I get a DUI. I make a really poor decision, and I end up getting a DUI. I end up getting arrested. It was a terrible, 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 terrible thing. And I'm sharing this with you guys because I don't want you to feel like I'm sitting here acting as if I'm any better than this, that I don't suffer from this exact same human mechanism of sabotage. It happens to all of us. But once I went through that and I saw how I sabotaged myself, because essentially I didn't feel worthy of the opportunity that I was given. I didn't feel like I deserved it. And when I didn't feel like I deserved it, I found a way to wreck it. I found a way to completely unravel it. And not only have I done that in areas of my finances, I've done that in areas of my relationships. I've done that in areas with my health being one of the biggest places where I've sabotaged myself, right? How many times did I in my life lose weight and try to get my health in check? I mean, I've yo-yoed in my weight so many times in my life. So many times. Right now, I'm in a really good place physically. But you guys have all seen it. Any of you who've been following me for some time have seen my physical health very much fluctuate, right? And so you've seen times when I'm very healthy, where I'm exercising regularly, where I'm eating correctly, and I'm doing all the things that I can to try to succeed there. And you've also seen times when I have completely let that go, where I'm just gorging on chicken wings and my health is not a driving force in my life. Right. And so this is not just a you thing. This is an all of us thing. So how can we stop this? What can we do to address this scenario? And how can we keep ourselves from continuing down this path? Right? Because now if we can understand that fundamentally how we identify ourselves, or what we give ourselves as our identity, is our baseline. And that baseline is the comfort level of the chemistry in our body. Okay. So I need you to understand this. If you, whatever that score was, if you gave yourself a money score of 6 out of 10, if you gave yourself a love score, 6 out of 10, health, 6 out of 10, and spiritual, 6 out of 10, if you give yourself a 6 out of 10 on all of these, if you give yourself a 6 out of 10 on all of these, the moment that you get higher than 6 out of in any of those things, you're going to start to find ways to bring yourself back to baseline. And the reason why you do that is because your body is addicted to the chemistry of homeostasis. How many of you have ever met chaotic people? Every time you see them, talk to them, something is going on in their life, right? They are going through massive chaos. They always have some kind of a financial problem, a relationship problem, a work problem. There's just constant chaos in their life. And you think, how can so many difficult things, how can so many hard things happen to one person over and over and over again? Well, the reason for it is because they are addicted to the chemistry of the chaos. Their body requires it. So the moment that they start getting to a baseline of just normality, right? Everything's kind of just coasting along. They start to feel that in their body. And like any addict, they start jonesing for the chemistry. And that's what pushes them into that negative choice, right? And so understanding that anytime that you take yourself out of that baseline, you are now going to start changing the chemistry of your body. And when you change the chemistry of your body, it is going to get uncomfortable. And that's where you have your work to do, is to push through that level of uncomfort, is to push through that place where it feels good or feels normal. Because many people feel normal in chaos. Many people feel good when it's going bad, because that's their baseline. So what are the signs? What are the signs that you might be heading for this, right? There are 7 signs that you can identify that can tell you that you are heading towards self-sabotage. Okay? The first sign is you start to become very hard on yourself. All right? You start to really disempower yourself. You start to feed yourself a lot of negative thoughts, a lot of negative words. You tell yourself all the reasons why you are disqualified from whatever success or whatever achievement or whatever gain that you might have had recently. You start to tell yourself that you don't belong, that this isn't for you. Okay, so the first sign that you are about to self-sabotage is you start to get really, really, really hard on yourself. And I'm talking disproportionately hard on yourself, right? How many of you guys have suffered through that, where you just have this negative self-talk and you tell yourself you're no good at this? Every time you try to talk to a real estate agent, things go wrong. You don't have the words, you don't have the eloquence, you don't have the mind to be able to negotiate and to create these relationships. You're an introvert. You say the things that justify why you can't do it. So you get really hard on yourself. You beat yourself up. Now, another example for me, right? I can get really hard on myself, especially considering the fact that I do score myself fairly high in all of those aspects of my life. And then as soon as I start to gain even more momentum and I start to gain more traction, that's one of my biggest signs that I'm about to sabotage is getting very hard on myself. I start to point out, all the reasons why I probably am not as good as as this level requires me to be. Probably just got lucky. The reason why I'm at this level of success in my life right now is because I got lucky. I have really good friends. People carried me along. I didn't really deserve this. It was all, a matter of circumstance and luck and being in the right place at the right time. I disempower myself. I take away the credit for what I gained, and I give that credit to chance. I give the credit to chance. I give the credit to randomness, when it wasn't randomness that did the work. It wasn't randomness that fought and toiled for years and years and decades at this business. There was nothing random about it, right? I did that work. I put it in. Yet I can tell myself that it doesn't matter, right? So when you start to see yourself get really hard on yourself, you can rest assured that there's a good chance you'll sabotage yourself in a short amount of time. All right. Number 2, you're very quick to point out the negative. All right. So you skew negative. Now, again, let's just say, for instance, you get some success. Say you get a couple of deals done and somebody says to you, "Hey, Jamil, you did really well, man. You just made $100,000 on these deals. How did you do it?" "Oh man, it was luck. Just they fell into my lap. I don't even know. I don't even know if I could do it again." oh yeah, it wasn't really me. Or um, something tells me this business might just be for other people because I know I'm anytime I get around folks that make a lot of money, I start to realize that I'm not like them. Everybody who makes money is corrupt. Everybody who makes money is greedy. Everybody who makes money is evil. I don't like being around that. I don't think this is for me. Right? So you start to skew negative, or you're like, man, you get your first deal done, and all you can do is complain about everything that happened leading up to it. Right? It becomes just such a chore. It becomes so damn difficult. Or you diminish it, right? You diminish yourself. You say, "Oh, it was no big deal. No big deal. Nothing special." So if you find yourself skewing to the negative, right, there's a good chance that you are going to sabotage yourself in short order. Right? So the moment that something good starts coming along in your life, if you start looking for all the negative things, all the ways that the other shoe is going to drop. And I'll tell you this, guys, no matter what you're looking for, you're going to find it. So if you want to find a negative in a good situation, it'll be there. It'll be there. There is nothing in this world that escapes polarity. Nothing. It is a natural law of this universe that everything is polar, meaning everything has its good and its bad side. And everything has its positive and everything has its negative. And so you can focus on the positive of any situation, and you can just as easily skew negative. So you can look at all the things that may not be ideal about this positive situation. And if you focus on those negative things, they become real for you. So if you start to see that you're skewing negative when something good happens, there's a good chance that you're about to sabotage your situation. Number 3, you procrastinate. Procrastinate. Start pushing everything off, right? You know you got to get it done. You know that it's due on Monday. You know that if you don't, or let's just say, for instance, if you know that if over the weekend you don't do specific things, that there's going to be a very little chance that you'll follow through with your work on the rest of the week. Like, let's just say, for instance, you want to start doing your agent outreach calls on the weekend. And instead of doing your agent outreach calls on the weekend, you procrastinate it. You find, a lot of reasons why. Oh, I have to run these errands. My spouse keeps asking me to run these errands. I just got to get these errands figured out. And then I'll be of the right mindset to be able to sit down and actually do the work. You keep pushing the work down the line, right? That procrastination. Oh, I can't do it today. I can't do this today because if I do this today, well, then I'm not going to have enough to do tomorrow. So I'm going to actually just make my day full tomorrow, and today I'm gonna just take it easy. I'm gonna actually do some more research. I'm gonna do some more reading because I really want to make sure that I'm prepared tomorrow when I actually start. Right. So that procrastination is gonna tell you that there's a good chance you'll very likely sabotage in short order. Number 4, disorganization, right? Being highly disorganized. Now take a look. Take a look at your current situation right now, wherever you're sitting. Are you sitting at a workstation? Are you sitting at a computer desk? Are you sitting in a phone? Are you sitting wherever you are right now? I want you to take a look at how things are. Are things in an order? Are things organized? Just take a look. Do you have papers all over the place? What does the order of your current situation show you? Now, again, you don't have to have all of these. Some of these are you'll be much, much better at than others. But at some level, a few of these 7 are going to resonate with you. And that chaos, that disorganization is reflective of what's going on inside you about this specific work that you're trying to do, right? It's reflecting to you. I mean, everything in your world is reflecting what's happening inside of you. Everything. Right? So how many of you made your bed this morning? Now, you might be like, oh, what are you talking about, Jamil? Making my bed has nothing to do with how well I'm going to do in my life. But it's that organization. It's getting yourself in order from the moment you wake up. Now, I can tell for myself, right? When I wake up, if I head into and I make my first decision is a disorganized decision. My subsequent decisions throughout the day will continue in that energy. And the way that my day will actually line up towards the end of it will be reflective of the first thing I did in my day. So that disorganization will follow, and it'll actually continue to carry throughout the rest of the day. Number 5, you underdeliver. You underdeliver. Okay, so let's just say you get yourself into the spot where you're like, I'm gonna actually do the work today. I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna make the calls. I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna actually get to it. And maybe you get 10 minutes, 20 minutes before you give up, before you get antsy, before it's too hard to sit in the chair, before you feel like you're gonna crawl out of your skin unless you get up and do something different, or you start scrolling around on your phone, or you find yourself on YouTube down another rabbit hole that has absolutely nothing to do with the thing that you're actually supposed to be doing today. So you underdeliver. You allow yourself to get very distracted. And then what ends up happening is when you underdeliver, you see the result of that underdelivery, and now you say, see, that's why this doesn't work for me. When you know dang right that you underdelivered, that you did not show up for yourself, you did not give yourself a 10 out of 10 in effort, you give yourself a 2 out of 10 in effort. And then you're making an assumption on your ability to actually succeed in this situation, or for this situation to even be legitimate enough for you to do. And you're using that as your justification to quit. Right? That under delivery. And I mean, I can always tell when someone is under delivering for themselves when I get onto a coaching call, or I get onto something like Wholesale Hotline, or an opportunity for me to talk with people in the community, and they say things like this: Jamil, every time I talk to a real estate agent, they tell me that they don't work with investors because all investors do is lowball them. That's every time I talk to a real estate agent, that's what they tell me. Every single time. Every time, huh? And how many times is every time? Every. Okay. How many is every? Always. 2, maybe 5, maybe. So you underdelivered. You did the bare minimum. You didn't even do the bare minimum. You did like And now you're making a judgment based off of a really piss poor effort. And that judgment is what you're going to hold on to right now to make a decision as to what your capacity to do this business truly is. Come on. How many times are we under delivering in our life? Again, I'm going to just use personal examples. I under delivered in my marriage. I did. I could have been so much better. I could have been so much more. And I under delivered. And I see it. You know, I'm real with myself about it, because I know that when and if given another opportunity, I will do better. I will over deliver. But I couldn't actually get there until I was honest with myself about my performance, about how I did. Truly how I did. Not in the lie of what I thought I did, but how I truly performed. So let's look at your business this month. How's it been going? Have you under-delivered? Did you do everything you knew that you could do? Did you show up every day? Number 6, you overdo it. It's another big one for me, in that overdoing, it's where you're just so tired of failing. You're so tired of things not working out that you'll over stimulate. You'll overwork. And going to the opposite extreme is just as bad as the under. Right? You overdo it. And when have you overdone it in your life? When have you overdone it? And you'll see a lot of people, when they're getting started in this, instead of being the under deliverers, they'll be the over. They'll overdo it, right? They'll sit and they'll say, "Oh man, you know, I sat down for 14 hours and I cold called people for 14 hours straight, and I did that every day for 30 days, man, and it was incredible." But it's like, man, you overdid it to a point where you can't sustain this. Right? There's no chance for you being able to sustain this, and you are going to actually fall off because you haven't done this in a balanced manner. Right? So just as detrimental as under delivering, when you overdo it, you're on the opposite side of the spectrum. So where have you seen you do that? And a lot of times, this happens in parenting. Right? We become overprotective. We smother. And then the 7th sign that you are about to sabotage is you're burnt out. Burnt out. You just feel like, man, I'm done. I'm over this. When have you experienced burnout? So, what we really need to understand and do is to come to terms with where we are in our identity, right? So, if we could, I maybe not all of you, but some of you, if you could share the scores that you put in the chat, or you gave yourself for money, love, health, and spirituality, where you ranked yourself out of 10. Where have you ranked yourself out of 10? Because that's where we have an opportunity to switch and really evolve our identity. So just know, and hope you don't mind, Sharon. But if we look at these, right? So Sharon knows, or she should be able to hypothesize that by coming into this, that if she starts to put effort beyond a 4 out of 10 in the money side, that the mechanism for self-sabotage will start to become evident, right? If she gets herself beyond a 1 in a love relationship, or if she gets herself beyond a 1 in a relationship of some form, she's going to question it. She's going to question it immediately, and it's going to start leading her to triggering and sabotaging the relationship. Right? If she starts to get too healthy, she starts to feel too good, she's going to figure out ways to kind of bring herself back down. And if she starts to feel too light, if she starts to feel like she's, really, really getting to that spot of feeling connected to and a part of all that there is in her spirit, then she'll find ways to degrade that and lower her vibration. And so she has to be very, very aware that her current identity has these numbers associated with it. Because if she starts moving in any of these aspects, one of those 7 signs is going to rear its ugly head. And then she knows what her opportunity is. Then she knows if she has the opportunity to sabotage and to let it fall off the rails, or if she's going to push through and make it and keep going. Now, thankfully, every one of us has the ability to take our current identity and understand what we need to do in order to get to the place we want to go. So tell us, or tell yourself, where do you want yourself to be in those 4 aspects? If it's a 10 out of 10 on each of those, all right. So if we're at a current 4, 1, 5, and 8, but we want to get to 10, 10, 10, and 10, what do we need to do in order to go from that to there? How do we get our money from a 4 to a 10? How do we get our relationships from a 1 to a 10? How do we get our health from a 5 to a 10? How do we get our spirit from an 8 to a 10? What do we need to do? What are the activities? Where do we need consistency? And Sharon asked a great point, great question. How do you push through? It's understanding that you are going to have an incredible amount of discomfort the moment you push past those numbers. The moment you push past your baseline number is when your body is going to start throwing a massive fit. A massive fit. This is when you can start to expect all the bells and whistles. This is where you'll get sick. This is where you're gonna fall and break a bone, or like believe that you will pull out all the stops to bring you back to baseline. Your body does not like discomfort. It's to understand and know that I'm not comfortable. I'm not comfortable, but I'm going to carry on. I'm going to carry on. I'm going to continue doing the work. It's to know that. So just being fully aware that our current identity, our current scores make up our identity, which then tells us what our belief structure is, which is then triggering the thoughts, which is then creating the emotions, which is then pushing through to the actions. And every single time that you show up, every single time that you actually do the extra work, every time that you make it through that uncomfort and continue, even if it's for a little while, you are reinforcing to yourself that your number is changing. And it doesn't need to go to 10 immediately. It doesn't have to go to 10, 10, 10, 10 right away, right? Immediately, you can go from a 4 to a 5, from a 1 to a 2, from a 5 to a 6, from an 8 to a 9, right? And just getting to that next number is growth. Just getting to that next number is growth. And getting ourselves into that new identity is the work, right? That's the work. That's the thing that we're constantly doing. And there's so many aspects, there's so many different tools that we can use to help us reinforce what identity we have, right? And we talk about this on a weekly basis. How do we get ourselves into a different spiritual framework, right? What practices can we do on a day-to-day basis to increase our level of spiritual connectivity? What are we doing? Are we praying daily? Are we giving thanks? Are we living in gratitude? Are we meditating? Are you taking walks? Are you exercising? Are you doing the things for your body that are necessary in order to take you to that next stage, that next number? How are you showing up in your relationships? When's the last time that you sat down and actually listened to your significant other and paid attention? Put your phone away during dinner. When's the last time that you gave it your all when you sat down and did a day's work? Idea asked a great question. Do you stay at the same number for a while to get consistent before attempting to move up? Absolutely. Right? Because you need to create a new baseline, and your body has to create a new level to where it feels this is comfort now. Like this is normal. This is normal. And as soon as that becomes normal for you, you have another opportunity to grow. Because we can't overdo it. We know that overdoing it is also one of those things that shows us that sabotage is just around the corner. Right? So it's steady. It's a steady progression. One foot in front of the other. Cool beans. So if you've had sabotage affect you in any way, I mean, again, I'm just as much a victim of myself as some of you might be of your own selves. But the fact that we become aware, I think, is the key, right? We have to be aware that this exists. We have to be aware and know where our baseline is. We need to know where we stand right now. And we need to understand what activities we can do to push us to that next level without overdoing it. And while we're on this path, identify what the signals and the signs are that we're about to do something that will sabotage us and push us back even further. And as we do this and we win day after day after day, that's when we actually grow. Because when we are in the cycle of sabotage, we actually never grow. We pull ourselves back just as far as we get. Ask anybody who sabotaged themselves if they feel like they've made any progress, and they'll typically say, nope, I'm right where I was. I'm right where I was. There you go. Awesome. Well, we'll be back here again next Sunday, folks. And if you have any things you're struggling with, on our last call, someone had mentioned sabotage as being an issue that they were dealing with, which is how this topic came to be for this week. If you've got anything you'd like to talk about or any issues that you're dealing with mindset wise that we can bring and I can do research on through the week and bring to the next theory call on Sunday, I'd love to be able to help you. So send me a DM on Instagram. And if you guys got any value out of this today, do me a favor. It just takes you a minute to move your fingers up just a couple of centimeters or inches and hit that like button. Hit that like button and leave a comment for us so that more people can get their eyeballs on this. Again, this is all just work that I'm doing personally in my own life to try and, grow on a day-to-day basis. And I know that success is an internal process. It's an inside job. And the more that we realize that and the more work we do on the inside, the more we'll see that manifest on the outside. Guys, be good to each other. Be good to yourselves. And if any of these signs pop out for you over the next week, you know what to do. Thank you all so much. I'll see you again next Sunday. Later.